Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we have Torghast. It's just gonna be a small little guide and my thoughts on it. So to start off, as I said before, I wasn't a very big fan of Torghast. I felt it was just boring. It wasn't very entertaining. The Soul Ash was, obviously you need it for your legendary and it's very valuable. But after doing it for the week, I just never went back. However, for some reason, this new Torghast, I think it's called Twisted Corridors. It's I actually really enjoyed it a lot. Like I spent a lot of time in here within the first week. Hence why I'm making this video. I think the biggest thing is that it was quite challenging. It wasn't just a walk in a park. A lot of it had to do with RNG, I will say. Not a lot of it. A small portion of it has to do with RNG of what animal powers you get and also what floors you get. I soloed my whole way through. First floor, I had a hard time, but I did complete on my first try. Floors, or not floors, sorry. First layer, I completed, but it was a hard time. The layers 2 through 7, it was a breeze. Like I had no trouble whatsoever doing it. It just flew through. I picked, I wouldn't say at random. There was a certain, I guess you can call it, build that I always went through every time, which I'll go through later on in the video, that I kind of stuck with to, progress. But I didn't have like the best animal powers, or there was one where I did it and I only had like 40k HP. There was another I did it and I had like 300k HP. So it, it's kind of RNG, right? But layer 8, on the other hand, it was, for me at least, extremely difficult. I failed it twice. The first time I ran through, I got the physical damage taken increase on the first floor, and so it keeps scaling every floor you go up. And as a melee, you'd imagine that that was not pretty. So by the time I got to floor 14, things were just hitting me for a ridiculous amount. Like I want to say 50 to 100k. And because I didn't get much health HP or reduction or anything like that, I was almost getting one shot. So eventually I ended up failing that one. Then the next attempt I did, I also had the HP buff on the mobs, and that didn't go very well either. I think by the time I got to the like floor 12 or 14 or higher floors, they just had so much HP. And so I think on floor 7, I also had that physical debuff again. So I got an animal power that says, hey, let me take 30% less physical damage, but 12% more or 15% more magic damage. And boy, was that a mistake because I started getting one shot by magic classes, which I don't know why it hit so much harder, but it did. So I ended up failing that again. And I did a third attempt where the affix, I guess you can call it, was it will randomly spawn an enemy on you when you're not in combat, which I think by far is the best affix to deal with in the earlier stages. The other affix that I wouldn't mind is the fire debuff affix because losing 5% HP every 5 seconds isn't too terrible. I mean, you take things slower until you reach higher floors where you get enough HP regen where it doesn't really matter. But by far, I think my number one is the one that the mobs spawn on you randomly. I think there are two different uh, wings that do that. I couldn't tell you which two it was, but I mean, in Twisted Cord it's all random anyway. So there's that. So what I'm gonna do today is kind of show you what build I normally do and what spec I did. So I did it as Outlaw, obviously, as you can see. I only play Outlaw Rogue. I've been playing combat since vanilla, and I just enjoy Outlaw a lot. So this is my build for a Outlaw Kyrian spec Rogue. So the very first power that I think you should get is First Steps. This ability or power allows you to grappling hook towards a target and it puts a debuff on them, which makes them take 400% increased finisher damage. So finisher as in your dispatch. So you would grappling hook towards them and then you would dispatch them. But that also pairs well with Echoing Reprimand, which the next ability that I think is really important to get is Reverberating Strike. This ability allows you to use Echoing Reprimand, and when you land on that specific combo point that you need to hit the Echoing Reprimand ability, instead of it being 7 combo points, it will be 20 combo points. So it's a pretty significant damage increase. The third ability that goes well with this build is Bringing Doom. This ability allows you to use Echoing Reprimand, and when you land on that specific combo point with your finisher, it will reset it so you can keep using it over and over and over again. You don't have to wait the 45-second cooldown anymore. And the fourth ability that which also helps with this is Silent Kyrian Bell. So what this ability does is when you use Echoing Reprimand, it fills your combo bar and your energy bar to full pretty much. And so you can Echoing Reprimand, use your finisher, and then try to hit your goal again, use a finisher and an Echoing Reprimand right away because you'll never run out of energy with this build, like ever. And the final ability I think you need for this build is the Last Blade. This thing can stack, I don't know how many times. I think in my final run I got it 4 times, 5 times. I'm not 100% sure, but I think by the end of my run, if I line up everything perfectly, I would be critting for over 1 million damage per dispatch. So that's why I really, really encourage getting this build for damage. So basically the rotation is you use Echoing Reprimand, you use your full combo points, and then you try to get the point value of whatever your Echoing Reprimand landed on. So for example, if it landed on 3, you'll try to get 3 combo points, then you'll grappling hook, and then you use dispatch. And that would net you the most damage you can possibly get. You can also throw in a kidney shot if you're specking to the 10% increased damage, and also adrenaline rush if you have the celerity, which increases damage by 8%. But that will net you the most damage that I can think of with everything combined. There are other abilities you can also use, like the basic increased stat abilities. There are also, uh, I think it's called Jack of all trades, where if you cast Adrenaline Rush, you get Vendetta and Shadow Blades. But if you run Outlaw and you run the Celerity Legendary, where every time, or when you're slicing like up, you have a chance to proc Adrenaline Rush for, I think it's 3 seconds. Every time it procs, it will give you a full duration of Vendetta and a full duration of Shadow Blades. So you don't even have to cast Adrenaline Rush. Like you can have a target, and if you have Slice and Dice up and it procs your Adrenaline Rush, you'll get Shadow Blades and you'll get Vendetta, which is a pretty nice boost to damage. There's also your basic, you do, for example, 25% more mastery percent, but you lose 25% frost damage and healing. So from what I gather and what I noticed is that the healing is associated with that school. So example is frost damage and healing. I don't know what frost healing is, but it applies to that, at least from my understanding, because I tested it. I used Crimson Vial before I took the ability and after, and my Crimson Vial healing didn't move at all. It stayed the same. So for that specific instant, I don't think it either applied to Crimson Vial or it just applies to that school of magic that it's referring to. So now I'm going to talk about the defensive side of things. So the first one that I want to talk about is Organized Vial Satchel. This ability reduces your cooldown of your Crimson Vial by 10 seconds each time. And you can get 3 stacks of this, which essentially makes it there's no cooldown. You can literally spam it. But it doesn't heal you for a whole lot. You can get a talent Iron Stomach, which increases healing by a little bit, which makes it, I believe, 26% HP overall. But the real reason why you want to get it is because the second animal power you should get is called Quicksilver Mixture. Every time you pop Crimson Vial, you have a chance to get um, Evasion, Cloak of Shadows, or Feint for 6 seconds. And so essentially, if it really, really comes down to it, you can literally spam Crimson Vial, and if RNG is on your side, you will be untouchable. You will have Evasion and you have Cloak of Shadows up 100% of the time. There is that possibility that, RNG isn't on your side, but for the most part, it almost always works. The next ability I want to talk about is Restless Onyx Geodes. Since we're using grappling hook a lot during our damaging, when we use a grapple hook, we also get the benefit of either getting Cloak of Shadows, Evasion, or Feint, or even Crimson Vial for 15 seconds. So we're going to be using this ability a lot. So it's just a random defensive buff that we get with the grappling hook. The fourth ability I want to talk about is Scroll of Forewarning. So this animal power allows you to extend the duration of your defensive. So Cloak of Shadows, Feint, and Evasion again by 3 seconds. And this effect stacks. I don't know if there's a cap. I believe I only had 2 stacks total, but this helps a lot, especially when you're just trying to burst down a boss before you die, considering most of these bosses will almost one-shot you towards the end of the dungeon. And the final ability for defensives I would suggest getting is Blood Gourd Leech. This thing heals a lot, and I feel it's very, very valuable as you're going through your dungeons. Maybe not on the bosses, because most bosses will almost one-shot you. However, it does heal you. I mean, if you have enough HP to live out those bosses and where you can stagger your HP and you won't get one shot, then this ability will help a lot. So this ability also can be stacked. I think the most I've ever had in one go is 15%, so 3 stacks. And so you have a very high chance to heal yourself for 50% of your max HP. And as I said before, on one of my runs, I had almost 300k HP. So that's a lot of HP healing frequently. So with that being said, there's also HP stats you want to pick up. I believe it's called something endurance. So it gives you 15% more HP per stack. And you can get up to 1 to 3 stacks per animal power, depending on what quality it is. But I really, encourage you picking that up. There's also another ability. I don't know what it's called, but it reduces the cooldown of your grappling hook. So you can use your grappling hook and get more big finishers, and you can get your cooldowns or your defensive cooldowns up more frequently. The only drawback I don't like about it, it adds a combo point to it every time you pick it up. So I think the most you can get is 3 stacks, and then so you get 3 combo points. And if you get Echoing Reprimand that's only 2 combo points, you can never use it for that. So I don't really recommend it. It's not necessarily bad. It's just with RNG, you might not be able to take advantage of your big combo point moves, right? For the grappling hook version of it, anyway. So that's my opinions on the builds, offensive and defense, that I think you should try to focus in these longer Torghast runs, because there is 18 floors, and there is a few things I want to note. So in this run that I'm doing here, if you buy the Ravenous Animal Orb and you use it on one of the mobs, it allows you to get 10 times the amount of Phantasma from the skeletons. And on these floors, it's huge. I think by the time I finish my full Torghast run, I still had 3,000 Phantasma left over after buying every single thing I could on the brokers, every floor, every 3 floors you see them. The last floor, however, threw a curveball at me. It surprised me with not having a broker to sell me more powers. So I had so much animal power saved up, ready to like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna buy all these powers before the last boss, and he wasn't there. I don't know if that's intended or if that's a bug because all layers 1 through 7, I'm pretty sure had a broker on the last floor, but for some reason on layer 8 there wasn't one. So now the build's out of the way and my tips are out of the way, I guess you can say. I'm just gonna get into the bosses. The every 6 floors, there's like, I guess you can say, a mini boss before the final floor. So I'm gonna get into the first one, the second one, and then a final one. They are not. I mean, there's no real strategy to it, I guess you can say, but I'll just go over them. We'll get into that now. So this boss right here, I feel. I mean, I haven't killed all the bosses in Torghast yet, but I feel this is by far the easiest one I've ever encountered. It does an ability which takes, I think, like 99% reduced damage. So you just wait it out. Like there's nothing going on during that phase. The only other ability he does is Deafening Howl, and I don't know what it does exactly. I'd assume a fear or just maybe big rate AoE damage, but I just interrupted that all the time. So it's relatively easy to deal with. Like by far easiest boss in all of Torghast that I've dealt with so far. But yeah, this is the first mini boss, which is on floor 6. As you can see, I breezed straight through it. I didn't take advantage of my grappling hook at all times, but that thing still got deleted. And as you can see here, I get the ability Jack of all trades. This is a ability I was talking about earlier, which it'll proc every time your adrenaline procs, even if you don't cast Adrenaline Rush. So now we're going to get into our next mini boss. So this blind boss was relatively easy as well. I didn't have much issues with him. I think I completely ignore all his casts as well just to see how much damage it would do. And keep in mind, this is floor 12, so they're scaled pretty high already. I mean, he has 2 point something mil HP. And so I try to just, use all my cooldowns, do as much damage as I can, and then he does his split. And so my idea is that I'll cleave everything down, but I'll try to focus down one slime so that I don't have a million slimes hitting me at once. And so that's why I keep focusing one down and I focus the next small one and the next small one. But as you can see, the AoE does do a little bit of damage to me, and having multiple of them mailing me at once also is doing damage. But I just pop evasion here, and I'm taking like no damage right here. And also again, Crimson Vial and my grappling hook. Although again, I keep forgetting about the grappling hook, but I try to use it mainly for like big bursts. So like there I use it there. But again, it's hard to get, the exact number. But other than that, I mean, this boss was a joke. It didn't really threaten me, and I didn't have any issues with it. I did get a good RNG on my side. I believe like after 12 floors, I was pretty much set with all my good abilities. The only abilities that I feel I was really missing was HP. Like as you can see, I only have like 70k HP here. And so after every mini boss floor, you get 3 epic choices, and all 3 of these are pretty much terrible for me, really. So I just chose one at random. I didn't really care which one it was. So now we're gonna go to the final boss. So the first thing I want to notice here, this is my talent I'm running. And so normally in PvE content, you would take cheat death. But in this particular dungeon, because you get faint on cooldown from Crimson Vial and from your grappling hook, you have a chance to get faint. I went elusiveness to get that 30% reduced damage. It helped quite a bit while going through the actual dungeon. But as you'll see here, it doesn't help me at all. I literally just get one tapped. So as I mentioned before, I was quite surprised when there was no broker. As you see here, I'm looking like, wait, did I pass the broker? Is there nowhere to spend my Phantasma? And yeah, uh, just I don't know if that's intended or if that's a bug or not. And so here I go, I'm thinking, well, I killed this boss before and he was relatively easy, so I'm just gonna go straight in and try to kill him pretty easily. But because it's the last boss, I went all out. I try to get my verse food. I looked like I think about popping a rune here, but I decided not to, which was probably a smart idea because popping a rune would not really give me much of an advantage. So as you can see, I grapple hook in, I get debuff on him, and I just go in, thinking, okay, well, I can kill this guy. And first hit, he hits me for 3/4 of my HP. I'm like, oh no, this isn't gonna go well. So I pop my evasion, I pop all my cooldowns, hoping I can kill him faster than he can kill me. But considering he has 10 mil HP, I'm like, oh no, I'm in big trouble here. So I ended up vanishing to reset the fight. And then so now I'm calling my steward because some of the powers I got from the run was one, it gives me a mastery buff. Two, having him out gives me a speed increase. So I figure, okay, well if I have him out, maybe I can kite this boss a little bit easier. So I tend to do that. And here I am looking at him like, what hit me? I just got trucked. So I look at my damage taken and all that. And so here I am thinking, oh, what should I do? How am I gonna kill this guy? He almost one-shot me. And so I get the data to try to, build damage early. So here I am. I'm grappling hook, so I get 3 combo points because I got 3 of those grappling hook uh, anima powers, which gives you 1 combo point per and reduce cooldown. So I have 6 combo points. Okay, I'll pop slice and dice and I'll go in. And so I have my grappling hooks off cooldown, and here we go. We give it another shot. Going in again. He hits me for about 50% of my HP. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing any damage, so I need to kite this guy. So here I'm just trying to pistol shot, run in a circle around him, which I thought, hey, this could work, but it's gonna take forever, and so I didn't want to do this whole time. But I think I did this so that I can reset my cooldown, so adrenaline rush is up and stuff like that. So I pop adrenaline rush, and I go in and I start attacking, and I start thinking, okay, well I can do this, I can do this. I grappling hook, I do damage. I did 360k. Okay, that's like no damage to him. So I kite again, and I kite again. So I start spamming Crimson Vial, hoping for that evasion proc, because I didn't want to get one shot from him. And finally I get 6 combo points. Then I stun him here in a second, I believe. Yeah, so I stun him, I do a little bit of damage, and then I start writing. And I kite, and I rinse and repeat this for a while. So I see right here my evasion comes off cooldown, and I pretty much just make my last stand here and try to do as much damage as possible. And as you can see, his HP is not moving at all. And then so I try to run away again, and I make the fatal mistake of turning my back against the boss. And as you can see, I died instantly. So I had another attempt after the last one, and I died. One of the changes I made was instead of mind numbing poison, I put crippling poison on because mind numbing, yeah, it reduces attack speed and cast speed, but crippling poison would help me kite a lot more efficiently. So I decided to switch that up in the last attempt. And in this attempt, I forgot I'm Kyrian, and I remember mentioning that I was elusiveness talent, and I thought, hey, wait a second, I'm getting one shot. Elusiveness is not going to do anything for me. So I decided to use my Curing ability to 4-hour ability and respect to cheat death as you just saw. So now I'm grappling hook, I got the debuff on the boss, and now I'm trying to build up combo points so I can get that 6 point slice and dice so I don't have to worry about it later on. And then I noticed I had a weird buff on my buff bar. I was like, oh wait, what is this? And it was just a buff to let me know I have a minute to respec from my curing ability. And so I got my 6 points, but I'm trying to fit for an evasion proc off the start so that I could have that full 15 seconds of free damage in the beginning. That way I don't have to use my actual cooldown and I'll have that cooldown for more damage, because I feel the longer the fight goes on, the less chances I have to kill the boss because he does get faster and faster as he gains those stacks, right? So I needed to make sure I get as much damage in as fast as possible because I can't kite this guy forever. And so I finally get my evasion proc. I'm like, right, well, it's go time. So I go in, I pop Adrenaline Rush, I pop my 5 minute potion that you get from Torghast, and I just hope for the best. I noticed that I use grappling hook a lot more frequently this time around, so that's probably why I did so much more damage than the past two attempts. One thing you can notice is that I'm in here for a very long time, just laying into this boss. Although it looks like I am doing no damage to him. I got him down to maybe like 15% at this point, and I have no cooldowns left. My Adrenaline Rush is used, my evasion is used. So I'm kind of like panicking, like, oh no, time to spam some Crimson Vial to hope I get evasion proc again. And so I try to kite. So I finally get a evasion proc, so I go in on him, do some damage, and then I get a full 6 second stun on him. That's okay, trying to do more damage. And it kind of just rinse and repeat this throughout the whole fight. So I have an evasion proc here, and then when I hook, I get the full 15-second evasion proc. So I'm in here for a while, just doing more and more damage to him. So I got extremely lucky. I mean, I guess the 25% chance to get evasion, but I got that evasion proc, so I stay in here and continue to do more and more damage to him. And I finally got him to half HP, and then he hits me, and I'm like, holy shit! I'm glad I took the cheat death talent, because if not, I would have been dead there instantly. And so at this point, I'm in panic mode. I'm like, oh, I got him to half HP, but my cheat death proc, so I thought, okay, maybe I should just kite him off again and wait for cooldowns. So I stop here, I do a little bit of damage, I get a grappling hook, and then I get a massive 1.8 million crit on him. Then so after that, I start to run again. I get a grappling hook here, and I see I get an evasion proc, so I decide, okay, let's turn around and do some more damage to him. And then it's at this point I notice my evasion comes off cooldown, so I'm like, okay, well, time to finish him. Pop my cooldowns, pop a Adrenaline Rush, and I use my grappling hook again. As you can see, I use this a lot more frequently than throughout the entire dungeon, essentially. Then I finish it with a nice 978k crit, and there you go. That is Torghast Layer 8, Floor 18 done. It was a rough journey. I was definitely in panic mode, and I was definitely stressing out. But it was definitely fun. I really enjoyed this new layer of Torghast. It was very challenging, and I think that it could have gone a lot more smoother if I had better powers, obviously, but that's all up to RNG, right? And so here I am looking at like the damage I took, and I took one hit that entire fight, and that one hit procced my cheat death. So I was so glad I switched my spec from elusiveness to cheat death because I would have died early on in that round. And instead of killing him, I might still be there right now. So I go to Orbital, then the first thing I do is mount on my new mount. It isn't the coolest looking mount, I would say, but it's more for bragging rights that, hey, look, I completed the Twisted Corridors Layer 8. And so I run around a little bit, and that is all. As always, if you like the content, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me at twitch.tv PV/Saintblade, and I'll see you guys in the next one.